Hi everyone, and welcome to our latest video in the Balsa Spitfire plane build. In this episode we're going to be adding the paper patterns and the external accessories. So straight off the bat we'll get in with paper pattern V, fairly straightforward little puppy, and you'll see on the pattern itself how it has a solid line, and then just outside is like a broken line. Now the solid line is the actual size of the paper pattern that you want, and the dotted line which extends beyond there is what you will cut your tissue out with. So you could use the paper pattern straight off the sheet, but I'm pretty sure that all the writing and wording on it will come through your tissue and stand out. So I cut all the patterns out of plain, just printer paper to be fair. Now what I've done on this particular one, which fits on the underside of the wings and sits over the top of that fillet piece, I've actually glued the paper pattern on prior to adding the tissue over the top of that. Looking back, and I think I do it with most of the other patterns, you're probably best sticking your paper onto the tissue and then cutting your tissue a millimetre or two wider than the actual paper pattern and gluing them together, and then just gluing the whole thing to the plane. It's just slightly easier. So stick that piece on and glue your edges down. I went back to me mix of PVA glue and water, sort of 50-50 mix. A bit easy to manoeuvre around and stick the edges down. So then we moved on to paper pattern U, which we'll be using two of. So again, you can cut this out on the dotted line and then cut out your tissue around that, or what I would do in future is I would just stick the pattern onto the tissue and just cut around the outside of the pattern shape, allowing an extra sort of millimetre or two over the edge of the paper pattern. Now I watched one or two videos of these, and it's described as being quite a difficult fit, but it's not too bad. Once you've got your patterns cut out, obviously you're going to need two, one for each side, and glued your paper pattern onto your tissue. Then there is a little trick which just helps to get the pattern lined up. What you're going to need to do is offer it up in place a couple of times until you're comfortable and you know exactly where it's going. Now the top edge, which is the straighter edge, the longest edge, needs to line up with one of the stringers. I think it's the second one above the top of the wing. So just roll the actual pattern up just slightly, so it's like more of a curl. It's got a curl to it, and then once you've glued it all up, stick one end onto the plane itself, line the top edge following the straight line of the stringer, and then work downwards till you sit it on top of the wing, and then you should have a lovely little edge that just rolls over the back end of the wing. And use something round, your paintbrush, something like that, just to smooth it all into place. Once you've done that side, the second one's more straightforward. you'll know what you're looking for. It's hard to visualize it at first, that's the biggest problem. But as I say, once you've tried it in place a couple of times and given it that little curl, it does tend to sit quite straightforwardly onto the top of the wing. So again, from the top you're following along the straight line of the stringer. And then just follow it around with your paintbrush with a bit of the old PVA mix on it, and a bit of dibbing and dabbing so it all forms into place nicely. And it should just, what we're trying to achieve is that little round, the rounded form on the top of the wing, so you get a nice rounded shape between the top of the wing and the fuselage. So as I say, just keep offering it up before you add any glue and you'll be fine. Then we're flicking to the underside of the plane. I can't remember what pattern number this is, but you'll see it. It's the one, it fits across the two formers, the two balsa formers that we finished off with in the last video. Very straightforward, this one. Again, just it's your paper pattern with a piece of tissue just slightly oversized. Fits straight across the top of your balsa wood formers and then folds over the wing just slightly. So that's at the rear of the wings, just see on that shot. And then we're going to stick the accessories on. They're just laid in place there, they're not actually fixed yet, but offer them up and working off the main plan until you're fairly happy that they're in the right spot and you like where they're going. And then it doesn't matter which one you start with. Pop some glue on. And then offer it up. The tissue will be nice and taut, so it's don't press too hard, obviously you don't want to go through it, but I'll see the first one of your accessories into place. Might be as good a time as any to just ask if you'd be good enough to subscribe to my channel. I have some other projects coming up. I'll be dibbling and dabbling with a bit of metal work, hopefully having a little splash with a welder, maybe some silver soldering. I'm going to take a look at trying to make a scale model of an old 1980s motocross bike. So get subscribed to the channel, and when that project takes off you'll get notified, and hopefully you can join me. So we'll just continue on with the rest of these accessories. Really straightforward. All the hard work was done early when you shaped them and formed them. Now once you know where you're popping them, it's straightforward, just a bit of glue and on it goes. The next video will be it'll be yet another first for me. It's maybe this is the first model I've built in exactly 50 years. Some of you are probably going, yeah, you can tell, but it's the first video I've ever made. It's the first editing I've ever done, and the next video will be using my airbrush that My wife bought me a couple of years ago that I've never even plugged in yet, so it'll be the first ever airbrushing session. So that should be quite funny. So join me for that one, and I look forward to hearing some comments as to where I've gone wrong. If you remember in one of the earlier videos, this is the piece where we just rounded off the underside with the little round sanding wheel that's an attachment to the Dremel, and that's why it just fits nicely to the curve of the underside of the fuselage. So basically there we have it, it's now starting to take shape. So we've all our wings are in place, we've got the accessories in place, the paper patterns are done. So it just remains to give it, I mean, this would be the stage where the purists would probably say, yeah, you've got to dope it, and I'm certainly not going to argue with them. Dope, I'm sure, is the first choice for many hobbyists for coating the outside of the plane, but I read somewhere that you can get away with hairspray. Now that's not a natural bit of equipment for me, being a baldy, but anyway, I thought I'd try it, so I just grabbed a tin of hairspray, and without going too mad, just follow all the way around and give it a good coating, because it does dry quite hard skin, not dissimilar to dope. So, and then it is going to be sprayed, as I just said. So we'll see if it works. It's it's not quite, it is quite smelly, but not as smelly as dope, and it's certainly nowhere near as expensive. Probably not quite as hard a coating, but as long as it seals it to some degree, I don't think it'll be going out in the pouring rain. So there we go. Join me for the first time spray painting in the next episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you then.